Okay, I'm just gonna fix this thing up here. Okay. Alright, Bobby, get the live stream going. Alright, here we go. The door opened again, didn't it? Seriously, what is with that door? That's weird. Is there something going on here? Whatever. I'm sure we'll figure things out. That was weird. Anyway, welcome everybody to another live stream. Let's get the party started. If you can even call it a party. I mean, my days, what did I just watch? I don't know if anyone's going to be bothering with this live stream. Well, firstly, let's just find out if the live stream is even working. Yeah, okay, it's live. If the live stream is even... Yeah, okay, working. Should probably check out some other stuff. Other stuff. What is a thuff? A thuff is another way of saying stuff. It's when you try to say stuff, but you end up saying thuff. Enough stuff. Alright. Anyway, not many people are on here yet. Let's see if we can get more people on here, if at all possible. Alright. Alright, we got someone on. Right, alright. Welcome everybody to my Rant live stream on what is quite frankly the worst episode of Rings of Power to date. Now, for those of you who've been keeping up with my channel, or if you're aware of the sort of Tolkien fan base, you'll recognize that there's been this show on Amazon Prime called Rings of Power. And ever since the initial, there was an initial picture of a landscape of, I think, was it Numenor or was it some other kingdom in a big shot? People thought, oh, wow, that looks impressive. But then there were more promotional photographs and trailers, and then people thought, oh no, this is going to be bad. Because this would have been fine if it was its own fantasy, but it's trying to adapt Tolkien. So on the one hand, a friend of mine said, Rings of Power is a very schizophrenic adaptation. Hello, Sammy H. Welcome. On the one hand, they are trying to make their own liberties by making their own original fantasy IP. On the other hand, they are trying to adapt Tolkien, which is established to have its own definitive rules and lore. And it's this rather toxic hodgepodge between the two. Like, never mind the fact that Peter Jackson adapted Tolkien whilst having a few creative liberties. This story tries to have so many creative liberties that it completely contradicts what's been well established in the plot. And not to mention, can we briefly talk about Maggie Smith? Oh yeah, sure, we can talk about that. Basically, long story short, there are some very incompetent storytellers with Rings of Power. Yeah, Sammy H, you missed my live stream about Maggie Smith, didn't you? Yeah, Maggie Smith passed away recently, and it's rather sad to have someone of that kind of talent pass away. I talked to the best of my knowledge about Maggie Smith, but I really need to watch more of her movies, more of her comedies. Is there anything you'd like to contribute to the conversation? Please type it in the comments. I'd be very eager to read it, honestly. The weird thing earlier on in the year, I was like, it would be lovely to meet her one day. Yeah, we all feel that way with people we admire. I mean, I went to see Interstellar in the cinema at the expense of not being able to see David Suchet, the man who played Poirot at Eden Court Theatre. Looking back, it was probably a good sacrifice for me to make, but that's another story in itself. We've all missed opportunities. We've all made regrets. the best we can do is to make the best decisions based on our experiences. Hopefully, Maggie Smith can inspire you to do good stuff. I've always wanted to. Right. So, anyway, going back to Rings of Power. I have been watching the first and second season of Rings of Power, and I do intend to make a review video of the whole show. I could have done what I did with like the Chosen series, where I reviewed it episode by episode, but I didn't watch the first season until recently this year, just to catch up with season 2. And my days, it is abhorrent, absolutely abhorrent. Rings of Power is one of the worst things I've ever seen. Like, at best, it's kind of okay, and there are some scenes that work in isolation, but overall, it's such a stupid adaptation. There are so many slip-ups that, to the point where not only does it work, not only does it not work as a there is an Amazon van that just passed by my house. I non-ironically. The Rings of Power series does not work as a Tolkien adaptation. It does not work as its own thing because the storytelling is so incompetent and it keeps contradicting itself. And there's so many plot points and plot holes and plot lines that feel like they happen by convenience rather than a natural flow. Characters making really incompetent choices and, quite frankly, being gullible idiots. And there is a whole... It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. And in this live stream, I was going to talk about episode 7, which is the worst episode yet. An episode which is so stupid. I kid you not. This seat I'm sitting on. I think I've made it clear in another live stream that I did kind of toss it into a rage, but never to the point of outright throwing it on its side. But this episode made me pick up my chair, just toss it to the side, just bang on the door. I was so infuriated. Because the decisions that they make, it just goes to show that these people have no understanding of Tolkien-esque world building. Like, if they were making their own IP, that would be fine, but Tolkien's world building has very specific rules to add to the immersion, and they've completely failed at taking advantage of that. I mean, we'd be more forgiving of these of the Rings of Power showrunners if they had a significantly lower budget, and if they were like Tommy Wiseau trying to make The Room, where they were really passionate about wanting to make this project happen. Because at least with Tommy Wiseau, he had passion for his own vision. But this, the people behind Rings of Power had all the money they could possibly have to make a project like this. And they failed. Like, how can they be this incompetent? It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I do know there's a history about them trying to spend the money to earn the rights, and as far as I'm aware, they only squandered all that money just to take advantage of a popular IP to try to advertise Amazon and try to compete with Game of Thrones. But they are viewing this purely from a corporatized perspective, and that everything is through a corporative lens. They've got no sense of passionate storytelling, no sense of what would make for a good, engaging story. Everything's just corporatized. Oh, we need to represent this diversity of people. Corporatized. Oh, we need the member berries for the Peter Jackson movies. Corporatized. And it just doesn't work. It's obviously desperate. It's obviously it's a mess, and they have several directors, several writers, and they couldn't get a single thing. Well, okay, they had some things right, but they could not get the significant portion of stuff right. I'm back. I just disconnected. That's all right. That's all right. Aha! Christian RPG gamers, welcome, welcome. I'm going to rant about Rings of Power, one of the worst shows I've ever seen. Although, for as anger-inducing as Rings of Power is, I'd say it's probably not as bad as The Acolyte, because with The Acolyte, there's just a narrative of pure spite, which I'd say is even worse than just complete incompetence. But even still, the incompetence of Rings of Power got me so angry, I literally threw my chair down the side and banged the door. It was so stupid. Basically, good grief, where do I even begin? So basically, I suppose I should talk you through the events of this episode, or even the events beforehand, just to give you a grasp of just how awful this episode is. This is season 2, episode 7, called Doomed to Die. This is a reference to the One Ring poem, specifically mentioned to the line 9 for mortal men, doomed to die. So those rings are somewhat of a central piece of topic. I mean, the whole show is about the Rings of Power, really, but the story is just so incompetent. It's, I mean, where do I even begin with? I'll make a review video talking about everything wrong with the series. But the fundamental problems with the show mainly revolves around the fact that it completely fails to completely immerse you. Spoiler warning, lol. No, I'm just joking. It's awfully the way. Yeah, spoiler warning. This is meant to be an adaptation of the Second Age and Tolkien's brilliant lore. But the problem is that it takes creative liberties that don't mesh well with the established lore, unlike Peter Jackson's adaptations. And characters keep making incompetent decisions because they're gullible morons. And the show does have scenes that work in isolation, like with Isildur's father, the chemistry between Durin and his wife Dina. Yes, even for all the explicit marketing her actresses got involved with, I actually bought Dina and Durin as a likable couple. I actually liked them on screen together. I'm sure, like, perhaps if this show was like set in the Fourth Age and they were explained that, oh, you had some dwarves and elves and such coming from south and all around, it would make more sense for what was meant to be a European mythical setting in the medieval times. But this is in the Second Age, and there's just so many questions about who's from where, and every culture looks like they're from downtown Miami, so you can't really tell one difference from another, other than, oh, pointy ears, oh, short stature, oh, they're Irish, they must be them Orphans. Hi, all. Never had we an episode so accurately named after this one show. It's really doomed to die. Yeah, exactly. I will give the episode credit for this. The title is very appropriate for its reputation because this is the worst episode yet for reasons I'll explain. So the show fails to immerse you because whilst there are certain likable characters like Isildur's father and Dina and Durin, the main characters you're supposed to be gravitating towards, especially the depiction of Galadriel, doesn't work. In the books and in the Peter Jackson version, Galadriel's meant to be the sort of 6 foot or so tall goddess of a woman who has this overwhelming, immense feminine influence on so many people. And she could wield a sword and shield, but her main power comes from the way she influences masses of people with her wisdom and with her actions as a authoritative leader. The Rings of Power makers have confused that to depict Galadriel as this unlikable, 5'6" or so narcissistic, gullible moron who makes terrible choices like leaving her own to die, and people don't really call her out on that, as well as being very hostile to certain groups of people for no given reason whatsoever. And you're supposed to gravitate towards her as the main central character. Good grief. And there's other problems like the vast majority of men in this show for a medieval setting, for some reason, are these beta male types with postmodern haircuts, which completely drags you out of this medieval fantasy experience. Like, if this was some kind of comedy version, or if this was set in like a later age, that would make more sense. But it's just so it just creates this cognitive dissonance where we're trying to be hip, trying to be so cool, cashing into the modern age. One of the cliches I absolutely hate the most about fiction is when the creators are trying to be so hip, so cool, man. What up, man? The moment you try to act hip, it immediately becomes dated. Like, mom and dad, if you're watching this, prepare to learn a lesson. So there are times when my parents will try to say, "Oh, touts amazeballs," and there I am just nearby going, no, please don't. That is torture. In Tolkien lore, there's just one incident where he wrote her fighting, where he wrote Galadriel fighting, and that was in a very unspecific way. She fought the Fëanor Noldor to defend the Teleri at the first kinslaying. Right. So, yeah, Galadriel can fight. It's just that her main power comes from the way she influences other people. She has this overwhelming feminine power, especially given the fact that she's lived for thousands of years. And the elves are already a fair race as they are. They have been super disrespectful towards Tolkien and the lore. Yeah, exactly. The thing of what makes Tolkien's lore so unique, what makes Tolkien's lore so enticing enough for so many people to be willing to gatekeep it, is the fact that Tolkien's lore isn't just his own imagination. It's also a culmination of years of history of European heritage, as well as the virtues of his faith and the beauties that he found in other pagan traditions in the Act 17 verses 27 to 28 way. I even made a live stream previously when I was talking about the passing of Bernard Hill. And this is something I had to learn about fantasy to get out of my legalistic phase, is that fantasies can be a great opportunity to redo Act 17 verses 27 to 28. And the fact that you say, hey, you pagans there, you got this beauty there. Guess what? That points to our God. So there's something genuinely awesome about that. And authors like Tolkien are great at carrying out that tradition. And so many people seem to overlook that, but I was able to find it out. There's so much history to that. And the people of Rings of Power think that they can just stomp and pee all over that just for their own money. Like, keep in mind, these probably the same kind of groups where if we were to like reinterpret like the Black Panther mythos, like people would be raging at us all over Twitter like and yet they want to do that for like Tolkien lore. Though keep in mind, Black Panther was written by a white guy anyway, being Stan Lee, and yet for some reason, the Black African Americans just absolutely worship like Black Panther. Like, look, I get it. Like, Black Panther's a great superhero and a great representation for Africa. I get it, but at the same time, the movie's kind of overrated. It wasn't that great. I mean, don't get me wrong, Black Panther is a good film. I'd probably give it a 4 out of 5 stars, but at CGI is kind of outdated and stuff like that. It's just the double standards that people have. Yeah, they've trampled on not just Tolkien's lore, but also just years of tradition. And they keep introducing these sort of fads and stuff like that to try to catch on to like the fan fiction here audience. The boss fight at the end with this mag train scene was pretty bad CGI wise. Yeah, that's like early PS3 levels of bad CGI. Yeah. Although the CGI from Rings of Power can also range from early PS3 to early PS5. I mean, that troll in the episode looked pretty good, and as did the Ant Wives in that one scene. So again, certain scenes in this series work in isolation, but the overall presentation is so incompetent. Another thing, there's so many other things that don't work. Like I could go on about the Harfoot subplot, but so far it's contributed little to nothing about the main plot line regarding the Rings of Power, unless something happens with Gandalf at the last episode of the series that would warrant, unless Gandalf makes an appearance in episode 8 of season 2, there was no point in the Harfoot subplot whatsoever other than, there's Gandalf! I get the feeling that even the showrunners are realizing, oh yeah, the Harfoot plot line doesn't really contribute much to the Rings of Power plot thus far. Other than that one scene where everyone noticed a meteorite. So there's other things to take into consideration. There's a dwarf subplot where the dwarves are beginning to delve a bit too deep into the mines with the mithril, and the dwarves seem to have the easiest takeover ever. Let's see what else happened in the plot. The Don Lemonlass is still out and about and is willing to contribute to like the big battle at Eregion. At Eregion. So in this episode, no. I need to continue talking about some previous plot points to talk about just why this particular episode is so awful. So I made this something quite clear in another live stream, but there's so many things where I thought, oh, that was stupid. Oh, that was stupid. Oh, that was laughably dumb. But I could go on and on about all that. Like, there was even a story about this one actress who had to leave the set for important personal reasons, so good on her. And then it just led to the most hilarious off-screen death ever. Like, there's so many incompetent decisions I could go on and on about, but there's this just one plot point that just deeply enrages me. Like, this is probably the most enraged I've been about a plot point since the finale of Thor: Love and Thunder, like the scene where Thor grants the children like the power of Thor, even though it's now implied that he could have done that with the Avengers and all the Avengers. So stupid. Like something stupid akin to that. So at the end of season 1, Galadriel's been noticing that she's been accompanied by someone named Albrand this whole time. So she's with Celebrimbor, who's so incompetent in the role. Look, these actors and actresses, they deserve so much better than the roles they were given. It's just that the directing was so poor. I'm sure that like the actors who played like Celebrimbor and Elrond and Isildur's dad and some of the actresses, the actress who plays Dina and other actors and actresses, I'm sure they could go the route of Robert Pattinson and find some successful careers to redeem themselves. It's possible. I wish them all the best if that's the case. The Durans both are very good. Yeah, like I said, scenes work in isolation, but there's just this one plot point that really enrages me. That's by the end of season 1, and then by the beginning of season 2, and then throughout season 2 as a result. So Galadriel's accompanied by Halbrand, and then she, Elrond, and Celebrimbor are together at the tower. And Halbrand is helping out making the Rings of Power, which completely contradicts the lore because it's made very clear that, yes, Sauron was involved with making the Rings of Power for 3 for the elves, 7 for the dwarves, 9 for the men, and 1 for Sauron. But there were these 3 rings. I might have contradicted myself. There were 3 Rings of Power made by the elves for the elves, by which Sauron had no involvement with. Thus, Sauron didn't have any power to influence them in the same way he could with the other rings. So the fact that Halbrand, who is revealed to be Sauron, gets involved with making of the 3 elven rings, just no. But that's okay. That's not the bit that enrages me. It's what happens next. So Galadriel is going through these lineage scrolls about where Halbrand comes from, but as it turns out, the lineage he claimed to be from was already dead and extinct. So Halbrand reveals that he's had many names, thus revealing himself to be Sauron the Deceiver, like the Satan figure of Middle-earth. So Sauron, who was Halbrand, offers Galadriel the opportunity to take over the world, but Galadriel refuses. I mean, the way it's delivered is already stupid enough as it is, due to the member berries of Deeper Than the Sea, all shall love you in despair, and just the overall presentation and the implication of the Satan figure being romantically shipped with Galadriel is so stupid. Because yes, Tolkien always wanted to ship the goddess figure with Satan. Tolkien always wanted to ship, like, this virtuous lady figure who was formerly a witch, only to then repent and have divine powers. Yeah, we should ship her with Satan. Why not? Good grief. Sauron not only had the mithril ore, the 3 elven rings were made of his own hand. Oh, but also the dagger, the silver and gold came from. Also, the show created the rings in order of their appearance in the ring poem and not in the lore. Yeah, that's very telling. Because the order is different in the lore. Okay, so Sauron actually did get involved with the 3 elven rings, because I thought I read in the lore that Sauron didn't get involved with the creation of 3 rings for Celebrimbor, Elrond, and Galadriel. If I could be mistaken, but feel free to correct me on that. But anyway, that's not the bit that enrages me. The bit that enrages me is that Galadriel and then later on Elrond both realize the information that Halbrand isn't who he claimed to be. He's actually Sauron the whole time. They go through with making the rings. They are right there in the room. And Celebrimbor is what I'd call him, is right there in the room. And yet, Galadriel and Elrond don't tell Celebrimbor that Halbrand was Sauron the whole time! So stupid! And, like, it was enraging enough to realize that Galadriel, like, the way season 1 ended, I thought, please tell me she told Celebrimbor. Please tell me! But then it was revealed in season 2. I'll read the comment in a moment. It was then revealed in season 2, no, Galadriel didn't tell Celebrimbor. Why not? Oh, because she's got a complicated romantic feeling for Sauron. And then my friend reminded me, oh, wait, Elrond didn't tell Celebrimbor either. That is so dumb. That is ludicrously dumb. What? I mean, not only is it dumb for this stupid Twilight romance, but the fact that Elrond, who was more motivated to tell Celebrimbor, he didn't tell him either. So basically, if Galadriel and Elrond had just told Celebrimbor that Halbrand was Sauron the whole time, and he's gonna like come back to deceive people, none of the events in episode 7 would happen. So, like, the whole plot twist reveal where Celebrimbor finally realizes that the elf he's been working with was also Sauron the whole time, it just makes that specific plot point all the more infuriating. Like, seriously, like, this isn't some personal romantic gripe. This is, like, searching for the Satan figure. And you don't tell him. Gah! Anyway, time to read the comment. In lore, the Elven Smiths created the 16 minor rings. Then Sauron left for Mordor to forge the Master Ring. After he left, Celebrimbor made the 3 Elven rings. God, there we go. That all between 1500 and 1600 SA. Yeah. Thank you very much for bringing up the fact that 1,000 or more years took place in the lore, because the Rings of Power makes it look like all these events happened in a matter of weeks. Even though that's not what happened. Not to mention the implication that, oh, there's these elder elves. Elves can age. No. And you get this big battle scene in episode 7, which we're going to talk about, where in the Jackson films, the elves are all synchronized, precise. They respect the craft of battle, but the elves in Rings of Power fight like clumsy Californian office morons. It's so stupid. Isildur is born in 309 SA. Well, yeah, exactly. You got all these characters who should not be encountering each other yet. And it's infuriating because like, you have this whole implication that Sauron disguised himself as Halbrand, but then he gets caught out by Galadriel, so he goes away, and then he disguises himself as the giver of gifts to fool Celebrimbor into making the rest of the rings. But the thing is, the fact that in this show, the implication that Sauron's already had a previous disguise, not really changing his face that much. Like, that isn't that just going to raise suspicion? Like, it would have been far less suspicious if Sauron went in for the disguise of the giver of gifts like he did in the lore in the first place. Like, the fact that he's been Halbrand, gets caught out, and then goes into another disguise just makes him all the more suspicious. It's so stupid. And the last time drop for this episode, Sauron started attacking Eregion in 1695 and last siege on Ostin Idil, the city, in 1690s. This is exactly why you don't take too many creative liberties, Simon Tolkien! It's so stupid. So anyway, I suppose it's time to talk about episode 7 in full detail, because I wanted to talk about specific plot details leading up to episode 7, just to establish how infuriating this episode is. Like, that was already infuriating enough, say it was, but then you have just the utter incompetency of how this battle is portrayed. So basically, this entire battle is basically around Eregion. On the one side, you've got these orcs led by sympathetic, pale elf man. And the orcs are launching these trebuchets from the woods at the other side of the river to bombard Eregion and And meanwhile, in Eregion, you've got the elves fighting back, firing arrows and stuff like that. The aim of the sympathetic pale elf guy is to go attack Eregion and eliminate Sauron as the ruler of Mordor, which in itself is kind of done because Sauron is meant to be this demigod figure who could have easily wiped out the orcs with the whim of his fingers, but instead Sauron got stabbed to death and then turned into the Oogie Boogie Venom puddle. So basically the elves trying to kill off Sauron, who's in Eregion. Of course, Sauron's pulling all the strings. And I remember me and my friend are watching this whole series, and we're just thinking, this is too easy for Sauron. This entire series is. My friend speculated this entire series is just Sauron's fever dream. That's the only logical explanation of how this series is presented. That's the only logical explanation. I mean, it would also make sense as to why Sauron is the only competent character depicted here. Whilst everyone else is a gullible moron. Sauron develops new powers whenever he needs them. Very convenient. Yeah, I noticed, like, he seems to have, like, force powers now. Belagor, like, I'm a Tolkien fan, but you clearly know more than me. It's not implied that Tolkien ever had those powers, right? He clearly didn't, right? He clearly didn't. He couldn't have. I think the Rings of Power writers are just pulling this out of their arses. It would not surprise me if you said no. It would not surprise me in the least. Yeah, you got Sauron. In this episode, in the previous episode and this episode, it's implied that Sauron is creating this Matrix-style hallucination, kind of akin to Plato's cave, for Celebrimbor to motivate him to keep crafting the rings. Sauron is a deceiver, not a Sith Lord. No, he couldn't enwrap a whole city and even individuals in alternative reality. Why? Why? What? Why? What? Ah! Come on! Ah! As I was saying, so, I mean, maybe it's sort of creative limited. I suppose Sauron, being the devil figure, maybe could cause some kind of hallucination, I guess. Anyway, and also no telekinesis, but Allmeyer could potentially teleport as long as not being forbidden by Eru Ilúvatar. Yeah, Tolkien did a good job of establishing the fact that the wizards are actually angels in human form, and many of the supernatural powers associated with Galadriel, Elrond, Gandalf, Radagast, and other characters are associated with what's been granted to them by Eru Ilúvatar, and everything else is basically a demonic corruption from Melkor. As long as you're discerning correctly, there's plenty of things to correctly interpret from there. But again, the Rings of Power writers just seem to be like pulling this out of their arms. Not to mention, Gandalf's staff was depicted as some gimmicky video game item in an earlier episode. But yeah, in this episode, Sauron makes this hallucination for this kind of warped reality for Celebrimbor's to be in to motivate him to keep crafting the rings. And to Celebrimbor's credit, he is at least smart enough to realize some Matrix glitches like Neo could, like the reoccurring mouse and the tactic to realize that the candle never melts. So he exposes Sauron, and then, of course, Sauron has no reason to keep up the facade anymore. And so we see the scene where that was being promoted of Celebrimbor crying, dramatically crying. The scene could work, but at the same time, Celebrimbor is not the awesome character from the lore. He is such an incompetent, wimpy, simpy buffoon who just gullibly believes Sauron on the basis of trust me, bro. Not to mention, there's a later scene where Celebrimbor, because he's really just a hobbit that drank too much Ent juice, where he's trying to get free from these metallic shafts. It's never really made clear if it was by his design or Sauron's design, but you can't get out. But then he has the idea, like, he's trying to get his hand out, and I was thinking, all right, just use, like, the candle wax, like Captain Jack Sparrow, but he, like, pulls off a saw and uses the metal cutter to cut off his own thumb. But some other YouTuber, I think his name was Johnny Law, pointed out, it's a metal cutter. You should use it to, I don't know, cut the metal! So stupid. Celebrimbor fought in almost every major and minor battle for the First Age against Morgoth's forces. He is a veteran. He is a veteran. He's a veteran. He should not be this wimpy, simpy, gullible moron. This is fan fiction done wrong. You know, a game I should genuinely live stream on this channel on my PS5. I need to live stream the Shadow of Mordor games, because the Shadow of Mordor games are fan fiction done right, especially delving into Celebrimbor's character. Celebrimbor is awesome in the Shadow of Mordor games, exploring this parallel timeline of what if Celebrimbor tried to take the One Ring for himself and fight Sauron for it, because on a moral and thematic basis, Celebrimbor is argued to be the true Lord of the Rings. And to see his character get disrespected in Rings of Power, it's so painful. Yup, that was Johnny's rant. So you're familiar with a wide branch of YouTubers as well, right? So, of course, I've been watching like Critical Drinker's video analyzing what was wrong with the episode, The Dumbest Battle in Middle-earth. He had an interesting approach, because Will Jordan is an actual writer. So his approach was to, not necessarily to rant about episode 7 overtly, but mainly compare what worked well in the Battle of Helm's Deep and compare it to the Battle of Eregion in Rings of Power. I think that was a great way of showing why this didn't work. Shadow of Mordor was far more lore accurate than this show will ever be. Okay, maybe sexy Shelob was a bit much. Hey, Shelob used to be a human before being turned into a spider, but yeah, this is fanfic. Okay. So Celebrimbor is like later gets reunited with Galadriel, and like, what have we done? Sauron has deceived us. And there I am just thinking, none of this would have happened if you told Celebrimbor in the first place, you idiot. But that wasn't the only thing wrong with that particular episode. Good grief. There's good grief. So the orcs have this tactical plan to use the trebuchets to launch their stone catapults to bombard the mountain, so that it blocks the river. And once the river is like dried off, then they'll march across the riverbed to get into Mordor. Get into Mordor? No, get into Eregion, sorry. Did you notice that the walls of the city are a new thing in Season 2? In Season 1, the city had not. What? Anyway, back to business. Yeah. So, grief. So, there was this other comment I read where instead of like using the trebuchets to knock down the mountain, which then blocks the river, couldn't they just use those stone things on the wall itself to knock it down? Not to mention, someone else pointed out that I think it was Johnny Law pointed out that it took these trolls to carry Grog in Return of the King, but here there's these equally heavy trebuchets, and just a few orcs are able to, lift that thing just fine. How strong are these orcs? And the city itself teleported a bit to the eastern side. I must ask you a question. Why? It's so dumb. Oh, they can't even keep up with their own consistency. Oh, they can't. They can't. So, I also was trying to say before. Thanks for bringing up the details. So, then as they dry up the riverbed, well, however you define dried up, I mean, the river's recently been drained. That's still going to be extremely muddy. You wouldn't be able to carry all that heavy infantry with you. So should I stop here and we do not speak of this episode anymore? I wish. I mean, after the live stream is done, we probably won't need to mention this episode anymore overtly. Probably not. The time will come, Bellicor. It will come. It will. So, after they try to march throughout the river, then you hear a distant horn, and the elves, led by Elrond, are coming. Yet the horn is so small and the elves are so far away. How on earth does their horn project so loudly? I guess the wind was in their favor, I guess. Of course, we must mention it. We have to compare it to episode 8 when it comes out. Yeah. So this horn blows out, but it's in the distance. Of how on earth were they meant to hear that? So, but regardless, the elves start to march on. If you look closely enough, there's a few funny details, like one of the elf leader's swords is sticking out a wee bit. Whoops. And like Elrond, or as I call him, Doogie Atreides, makes the charge. Like they attack the orcs, but they make so many incompetent decisions, like having a horse charge in a forest, which is not going to work well for the horses, as well as like having such incompetent fighting stuff, like hit one orc, hit two orc. Oh, wait for my cue to get knocked down by the third orc. Oh, I'm down! The one elf is Gil-galad, the High King. Thank you. There's so many incompetent choices. Oh, good grief, here we go. Oh, good grief. Oh. So, the elves like charge at the orcs, but then the orcs are like, we have a backup plan. We have a plan. Yes, come closer. Look what we have behind the box. Oh, here's our magician's assistant. Get closer. George! Behold your girl boss! Stop! She has not earned that kind of reaction. Go ahead, kill the orcs. Just avoid hurting the girl boss. I'm sure she could take out an entire army by herself. And Then there's this ridiculous shot where, even though it's established in a previous shot, like the sun and the clouds were shaped in a certain position, all of a sudden, in the exact next shot, suddenly it's half and half. Do clouds really move that quickly within seconds? The reason why it's that is because the elves work best in the sunlight and the orcs work in the dark. So, get this. Right in the middle of a battle, they have a negotiation, which, if you really think about it, doesn't really go anywhere. In fact, do I even need to mention it? I have to mention it. I have to talk about it. I have to talk about it. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. I have to talk about it. Okay. For those of you who have not seen the episode, you are not going to believe what happens next. Like there are some dumb moments of the show, but what happens? Good grief! Good grief! Can I say it? I have to say it. I have to say it. It is so stupid. It is so monumentally stupid. So, okay, if you're standing up, you need to sit down for this. Because what happens next is so monumentally stupid. It just makes you question your own sanity. Okay? Everybody calm down. Everybody ready? Everybody ready? Everybody ready? Okay. So get this. During the negotiation scene, Elrond fails to get Galadriel out. But before Elrond leaves, he bids Lady Galadriel, his mother-in-law, with a romantic smooch. Galadriel also is Elrond's grand great auntie. Gotta love the Game of Thrones vibes.
Having sex within the family, just like Cleopatra did.
That is not what Tolkien established. The scene is so dumb. These people had no idea that Elrond was related to Galadriel in that way, did they? Did they? They interacted with each other like they were friends.
Especially given the fact that she looked somewhat younger than Elrond in this version. Whereas Galadriel's meant to be 6 foot tall, she's meant to be someone like Kate Blanchett, or if not, very much looking like Kate Blanchett's appearance.
You want to know something funny? That was not the moment when I flipped my chair and banged the door in utter rage. This is gonna make you laugh. So it was what happened next. So as we're smooching, like as it turns out, Galadriel like has this lockpick that she could use to like escape the whole time. Gil-galad also is Galadriel's great nephew. Right, yeah, exactly. Like, Galadriel should not be looking this young. She should be looking just like Kate Blanchett in this case. Oh, man. So, basically, when I found out that she had a lockpick, I was thinking, she had that the whole time, and I just instantly, like, flipped out. Even though my friend said, oh, he must have mouthpieced the... Like, Elrond must have passed on the lockpick to her through the kissing, through the mouth. But I didn't hear him say that. I was too busy just thinking, why didn't she do that the first point, and I just flipped, like knocked my chair over to the side, banged the door. Why did she do that in the first place? And my friend, who was just laughing. That's my reaction. Then had to explain to me. No, I think Elrond passed on the lock piece through the mouth so that Galadriel could escape. And I thought, oh, okay, right, that makes sense. Okay, that tactic does make sense, but still, this is just appealing to like the fringe fan fiction of like Reddit tier fans who should not like this whole lockpick plot point would have worked if they had actual foreshadowing, like give Elrond like a sense of planning things out in advance, then trick people into thinking he and Galadriel were lovers, and then pass on like the lockpick. If it was better foreshadowed for the strategic plan, that would have been a better payoff. But it just comes completely out of nowhere, leaving fans enraged. He did pass it to her after openly taking off his cloak brooch, and the transfer was in full display at least one. Wait. What did you say? The transfer was in full display to at least one orc! Nope! Nope! No! 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 Full view! Full view! No! No! Why didn't the orc report that? That's so dumb. Like, I know. Elrond did take off his brooch, and that was the lockpick. Yeah, we did see that. Well, Belvigar, help me out here. Could Elrond have actually passed on the lockpick in a way that didn't involve the kissing? Could he like passed it under the tent for her to pick up or something? Or just like toss it to her or something? Was the kiss really worth it? Because I mean, this tactic could have worked if it was more thoughtfully strategic, but it didn't come across that way. Of course, just hug her and embrace her with the cloak and then transfer it under that. Thank you! There we go! That's a much more simple method of doing it in such a way that doesn't tick off the fans! And that's much more strategic. The orcs won't see that coming. They'll be paying more attention when... these writers are so dumb. Like, they hired who knows how many writers, and you got people like Belagor here who can write the whole series more competently than any of them combined. Like, what is going on? What kind of money laundering scheme are they doing? What is this? I take kissing as one massive middle finger to the fandom. Yeah, they must be doing this out of spite, right? Just like, screw you, we get to determine who ships with who and who's gonna like have sex with who. It's so stupid. That kind of spite is bad. I mean, oh good grief! Like, season 2 was much worse than season 1. No other explanation anymore. They do that all that on purpose. Yeah, there's been some speculation that a friend of mine speculated that they had a specific method of depicting Tom Bombadil as mostly accurate to the book, and it might be out of spite because Tom Bombadil is portrayed as knowing a lot of the stuff, even though in the books he's portrayed as the kind of person who wouldn't care about what's going on in the outside world because it's not in his nature to do that. My days. But somehow I think is this even worse than the Acolyte now? I might be daft enough to say no. I think the Acolyte is still worse because the Acolyte's plotline, that's a story where the entire plot is made out of spite. With Rings of Power, there's bits and pieces where spite is involved, but the rest of it is incompetency. But with the Acolyte, that's pure spite. Yeah, that makes more sense. So what else happens in the episode? So Elrond is allowed to. Let's go with Acolyte, worst sci-fi show, and ROP, worst fantasy. Agreed. So it's just that I made a poll a while back on my channel asking which show is worse, Acolyte or Rings of Power. The vast majority of my audience picks the Acolyte as the worst show at the time. I might be able to, maybe I should make another poll similar to that. I mean, season 2 of Rings of Power comes close, but I still don't think it's as bad as the Acolyte, because with the Acolyte, the entire show is made from spite, and there's much more contradictions that really frustrate a lot of people. So where was I? All right. So Elrond is walking away with Gil-galad, and I just think, apart from the rescue attempt of Galadriel, what was the point in the negotiation in the midst of battle? They're probably just going to try to kill each other anyway. So why not just kill Elrond and Gil-galad now? Just shoot them with an arrow. Dead. Done.
You just don't get it, do you, Scott?
What, just kill them. Just kill it.
I got a whole bunch of shit with your name on it.
Look, you just kill them.
All right, zip it. Zip it. Zip.
What are you going to do with them then?
Okay, Scott. I have an even better idea. I'm going to place them in an easily escapable trap involving a slowly elaborate and exotic death.
The rest of the battle happens. The elves take down a troll. There was one thing I was actually quite surprised by in this episode. It's implied that the dwarves of Khazad-dûm are going to go to the war. Even a big rousing speech, and I thought to myself, there is no way they're going to get to Khazad-dûm to Eregion, which is miles away. The only explanation is that this rousing speech at Khazad-dûm would have happened many, many days prior to the battle, but it's never established as that. But something that was a pleasant surprise is that the dwarves actually don't turn up at the end of episode 7. So I thought, okay, the dwarves are going to show up, and then as it turned out, they actually didn't. And it seems like the bad guys have a bit of a kind of a victory here, to the point where this show literally ends with heavy metal black speech. Something that I'm sure Christopher Lee would have been very enthusiastic about if he was still alive. What did I miss? Oh, yeah. There was another bit where there was this lady who Sauron was flirting with, is seeing the whole battle for herself, yet for some reason she decides to go right where the archers are, where she could be at risk of having her head shot, why do you endanger yourself like that? Given the amount of time she just stands still to have dramatic dialogue with other arrow archers and even with Celebrimbor and Sauron, I just think, how have the orcs not shot you already? You're standing still. And you're by the archers. You're dead. I'm sorry, lady. You're dead. Okay. And what else happened? To be fair, she was. Good one. Good one, mate. Good one. Oh, that's gonna go down in history. That was brilliant. Other things to mention. There's some other things that don't work that I could mention, like how Dina and Dura didn't bother setting up traps or furthering their enforcement when the dwarves were coming back to the position they were at before. The dwarves then said, "We're going to fight by your side." The fact that oh yeah, there was this one Asian elf who was fighting alongside Elrond and Gil-galad, and even though the show doesn't really have enough time to develop her character, we're somehow meant to feel sorry for her when. Well, I mean, war's a terrible thing, and I get that you get familiar with all these different people you won't know about. But regardless, this Asian elf like gets shot with many arrows like Boromir did, and yet she somehow has the shoulder and arm power to fire this one fiery arrow. Like, it would be credible if she was taking a sacrificial, strenuous effort to shoot that arrow, but at the same time, like, you got shot right here. That's going to like affect the arm hamstring in some way to make him. It's Right. Little fun fact: she fell down face first, but then laid face up in the when the orc took his axe to her head. Right. Oh yeah, you were talking about like that one blonde elf, right? Consistency is not really a thing in this show. Yeah, I've noticed like throughout even like season 1, there was some shots where it looked like one thing or a character would be facing one direction, but then in the next cut, there some characters or stuff would be in a completely different direction all of a sudden. I pay attention to this, especially having experience with editing. I was like, my days, they can't even get editing right. That's one of the basics of filmmaking is to have the film work in synchronicity. They can't even get that right. I think I've got about at least another 10 or so minutes before I need to head off. But if there's anything else that I missed, please feel free to mention it. What else happened in the episode that was so utterly incompetent? I mean, oh yeah, just the fact that it was over an hour long, and I think it's the longest episode to date. Now, I get it. It's a trend for shows to have this big final battle be done in either separate parts or in hour-long episodes to really further fill in like the weight of just how big this event is. But given how incompetent and stupid this quality of the series is, the poor quality just dragged on and on and on and on and on. Just make it end. It makes it such a relief when it does end. We should not be feeling that way when it comes to entertainment. We're meant to have fun, not torture. Notice later when Elrond shouted, "Look to the north, the dwarves are coming." They show a rising sun over the riverbed, and the river is in the south. Rises over the river, and the river's in the south. Is the landscape just constantly shifting by volcanic earthquakes? What is going on here? Oh man, this episode was just the worst in the series ever. Like, full stops. It was utterly incompetent. Utterly incompetent. So the sun rises in the north, or Elrond has very bad orientation. The showrunners have very bad orientation. That's the problem. That's the thing. So, honestly, I think that's everything that I could possibly rant about with this particular episode. Because my days, that episode was just awful. And I'm glad to get this rant over with. And hey, at least we had some fun butchering all this as much as they butchered the lore. And thank you very much, Belagor, for your excellent insights as a Tolkien fan. I suppose that reminds me, I have something I think I should show you guys. I think I have it somewhere. I think I showed you in the previous live stream, but I just want to show you again. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Right. So, ta-da! Elf brooch. I'm part of the fellowship now. Yeah. So I look forward to wearing that when I get the chance. All right. So how many minutes? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, 10. Probably about 10 minutes left. I was on the reaction stream from a German Tolkien enthusiast. It was right after a watch party and went for 9 hours. Then he stopped, not even close to mentioning every point. 9 hours. 9 hours. Good grief. This episode is terrible. Like, if the entire fandom is going out of their way not to praise your work, but to dissect every potential bad thing, you know you goofed up. Like, there is no way they could ever make a season 3 out of this. If they do manage to make a season 3 out of this, it would be with a very, very low budget. I think they might be able to squeeze out a season 3, but probably nothing more. We discussed lore inaccuracies as well as filmmaking problems. Right. This could go on for a long time, but I don't have enough time to talk about that. I'm not going to waste my time like that. I've got a life to live. I've got fresh air to breathe and food to eat. They are contractually obligated to make 5 seasons. 5 seasons. I like the way you misspelled seasons. Seasons. So we will get 3 more. It would be a huge catastrophe if we manage to if the show gets cancelled. Like, I think the plan was to have at least 3 more seasons, but given the rate that the story is going and the money that they're losing, despite the billions that they had to make this in the first place, that they're probably going to make a 3rd season, but my days, that it's going to be a much lower budget. It's bound to be, right? It's bound to be. Well, even if they do, we'll scold the ever-loving daylights out of it, unless they pull off Picard and actually learn from their mistakes and make something competent this time. I sincerely doubt it, but your catastrophe. Anything could happen, I guess. Anyway, that should probably be all for this particular live stream. I know I kept saying that, but this time, yeah, I need to go in a few minutes. But if there's anything else any of you would like to bring up or mention about, the audience members of the show, 37 completion rate of season 1, and only 50% of the viewers for season 2, episode 1, than season 1, episode 1. Right. Oh, yes! Oh, I just received some amazing news. Oh, yes! Oh, guys. Okay, guys. I just found out. I have a friend named Squid Bear from Squid Bear Studios. He's just achieved 1,000 subscribers. Congratulations, man! Yes! There we go. We're ending this live stream on a high note. Fantastic. Well done, mate. All right. Okay, I'm gonna have to endorse the channel, share the link, unless he's gonna share his own link. Let's see. Yes! 1K! He did it! Yes! Oh, man, he actually did it. Well done, man. Well done. All right. Congrats to him. 1,000 is a great milestone. Yeah, I achieved that several months ago, but here you go. There's his channel. He's also a fan of Tolkien. He's read the Silmarillion and other sorts of literature. He's made a Amadeus Lord of the Rings kind of video, which is one of the best he's made yet. And he and I are actually working on developing a science fiction comic. So if you're wanting to, which reminds me, I should. Almost forgot to drop one here. That's all right. That's all right. Let's see. Where is the thing? Where is the thing? Where is the thing? There's just one more thing I'd like to share with you. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. All right. And okay, good. Okay, sharing, copy the link. And all right, so this is a Patreon link, Belliger. Squidbear and I are working on a science fiction comic. It's quite the effort to get done, but hopefully with enough support and with enough effort, we'll see it. We'll see it. This project will see the light of day. So if you could give it some support and give my friend Brooks another subscriber, just so we can get 1K plus one, that would be great. Especially with fellow Tolkien fans, we've got to increase our communities. Right. Yeah, I'm going to end this live stream. End it on a high note. Fantastic. Congratulations, Squidbear. Congratulations, man. You've earned it. You've absolutely earned it. Thank you all so much for watching this live stream on what is frankly the worst episode of Rings of Power so far. It would not surprise me at this point if there is a season 3, but given the very poor ratings of the statistics, it seems that there's going to be utter failure. Oh, I myself have just earned 1.07k subscribers. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Feel free to check out some of the reviews, animations that I've made. See you maybe next week with episode 8 review. Most likely. Most likely. Until then, Scott Stinker signing out. Check out my content and thank you for watching. See you, Space Cowboy. Bang. When the cool... that's not how the song goes. When the cold of winter comes, starless night will cover day. In the veiling of the sun, we will walk in bitter lands. Budge and dream. Sing the rest now.